Remember, I had told you that all these district judges' decisions will be challenged in the Supreme Court and that the Trump administration will eventually prevail. Well, two critical decisions have been handed down by the Supreme Court of the United States. These were bench decisions, which means most likely these cannot be challenged, and that would put a stop to some of the things that are happening. But what are these, and how does this strengthen President Trump's hands? All this and more in this short video. Small request to all of you to please like this video, and if you've already not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. Here we go. SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, has handed Trump two critical decisions. What are these? The first one, remember that the judge Boasberg had put a stay on, sending people from Tren de Aragua or MS-13 to El Salvador prisons. That's one. And the other one, and that's the one that I'm going to talk about first, which is the termination of federal employees who were under probation. Most likely they were under probation as DEI hires or perhaps something of that nature, where the Biden administration on its way out, they did as much damage as possible. Clearly, some of them were under the spell of some very evil elements, I can tell you. This New World Order was just, they've done a big, class act on much of America. That's where Trump inherited it, and they wanted to make it as bad as possible, and that's what they achieved. Now, Supreme Court has, in a 5-4 split decision, agreed that the Trump administration can indeed fire the probationary employees. Now, right now, it's just a stay, but it is expected to hold good. And those who are not fired yet they're on administrative paid leave for now, but most likely this will get resolved very quickly. See how quickly justice moves through the courts of the United States. That's the one big difference between India and US. When there is a decision made, then immediately somebody, the aggrieved one, will go and get a stay order. And that stay is at the low-level court, doesn't get vacated for a long time, and then this thing just dies. Whereas in the United States, any appeal is immediately dealt with, and there's a court of appeals, as a matter of fact, just to get this process going faster. So everybody has a chance to take this thing, to escalate it to as high a level as possible, and finally the judgment does get delivered in a fairly quick manner. So these firings were in 6 different federal departments. One was Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, Defense, Energy, Interior, and even Treasury. The court has found the plaintiff's claims insufficient to establish standing at this stage. Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown dissented, opposing the stay. But this is just a stay, okay? So that means the stay could get vacated soon and that the original thing could stand, but most probably not, because somebody has been interpreting the US Constitution, and yes, the Trump administration has full right to fire anyone they deem that's unfit. Now, this is their opinion. I mean, you can disagree or agree with the firing itself on what grounds. After all, people got jobs because they were asked to do a specific job, which is to try and find out how well an entity was implementing DEI. Great. But this is right now, as a policy, this is completely being abandoned. If you know that the Federal Department of Education is completely disbanded. State education is going back to the states. The states have to deal with it. That's how it was. Biden tried to make a number on the whole people of the United States. So that's one. There's a separate lawsuit in Maryland halted similar firings across 19 states and Washington, D.C. The Justice Department is appealing this Maryland decision. This might also get overturned. Now, lawsuits are claiming that over 24,000 probationary employees were terminated under Trump, but the figure is not officially confirmed. Now, this mass termination has drawn a lot of responses from the members of the judiciary. Judge William Alsop criticized the mass terminations as causing significant chaos. Acting Solicitor General Sarah M. Harris defended the administration's stance, claiming the court's initial reinstatement order violated the separation of powers. I mean, the salary is the responsibility of the administration. Therefore, the hiring and the firing is in their hands. So this is basically the argument, the crux of the argument. We'll have to see how this plays out. So this was a 5-4 decision. This is the second one that I talked to you about. about the criminals being deported out of the United States. In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to implement the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelan gang members. It's not just Venezuelan, there are other gang members also. All of them have been deemed to be of criminal or even of kind of terrorists. The Alien Enemies Act has historically been used during wartime, not against non-state actors such as gangs. This law also was used to justify the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. Nearly 300 Venezuelan migrants were deported to El Salvador, including some with no criminal record. In fact, this question was asked of the Attorney General, 𝗤𝗏𝗿, and she returned without replying that question. She just walked away from the podium. So I don't know what to make of it. People are saying that only 25% of the people in the SCOTUS prison from the United States have criminal records. This thing is still developing story. I have a bunch of links for you to take a look at. You read and you decide. Now, what are the legal safeguards and dissenting opinions? The court ruled that migrants must receive notice and have the right to challenge deportation through habeas petitions in the jurisdiction of detention. In other words, they could still step in case they feel that the person who's being deported has had his rights to appeal. Justice Amy Coney Barrett joined a partial dissent with Justice Sotomayor, questioning the legality of relying solely on habeas corpus. Sotomayor warned this approach exposes deportees to severe life-threatening risks, especially in El Salvador's SCOTUS prison, notorious for human rights abuses. Some innocents were identified. By the way, there's one other thing that has happened before I go on to this slide. About 985,000 people had come into the United States illegally using the CBP-1 app. Now, all those people have been deemed illegal and have been given notice, most likely on their own app, that you need to leave this country today. That is outside of all this. So that's also happening. The CBP-1 Act, anyone who has registered using that has been told to leave the country on their own volition. I'm just telling you what 𝗤𝗏𝗿 has announced. You should take a look at that and you should act in case you are in the United States under CBP-1. Okay, who are the people who are innocent, who got deported and who are fighting their cases? One of them is Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran man who was wrongfully deported due to an administrative error. A court has paused his deportation. His case highlights flaws in the rushed deportation process. Remember, the number that they need to reach is 11 million to 15 million. So far, they have only deported close to 80,000. So a long way to go. This is one of the reasons why Trump has been asking, why is it so slow? First of all, you have to identify people who are illegal. Those who are really illegal, they have vanished. And United States is a large country. They need to start developing intelligence sources who can tell them, point them in the right direction. For example, rural United States is a wide open space. You need to look there, not in the cities. Cities are the easy, low-hanging fruit. Sure, they will come there for jobs, but somehow there is a different life that is being lived, and that is something that I'm not privy to, and that is something that perhaps the FBI knows. FBI would be the right place to know where are all these millions of people hiding, right? So we'll see how this thing goes. Is the Trump administration pushing the boundaries? Well, that is something for the courts to decide. Courts are the ultimate deciders on such things. They will interpret the Constitution and tell whether the Trump administration is exceeding its brief. I'm just here to tell you what the various moves are. Essentially, we are gathering all these fast-moving development, bringing it to you in capsule form so that you kind of know or you're up to date on what is going on. If the appeals court declines to hear the case or if the judgment is delivered, these stay on reinstating will end and they will be indeed fired. So that's where things stand, and this is truly something that Trump wanted, because he was getting so much pushback from all these people, especially over the weekend. We had a synchronized protests across the country. So clearly somebody had funded all these things with identical looking slogans, identical play card, identical, that book toolkit. So this is what is happening right now. And viewers, there are many more things that are happening. Trump is a man in a hurry, and he knows why, because within 3 months, the whole thing is going to start to grind down to a halt, because everybody will start saying, okay, now let's get ready for the next election, which is still a ways away. 2026 November is when Congress goes back. Right now, Republicans have a sort of okay lead in terms of numbers, 7 people majority in the Congress, and they would want to take it to 25 or 30. And for that, Trump needs to get one act through, voter ID. That is something that is already signed as an executive order. How much of that will be implemented at the state and the county level, which will determine if the elections are going to be free and fair. Certainly, many of the election audits are giving adversarial decisions, adversarial conclusions as far as the Democrats are concerned, especially in the state of Arizona. Do watch for those. I'll do a separate program on that once I have 3 or 4 different investigations finished. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.